What is up, YouTube? Welcome to part 3 of my college football predictions. Today we'll be doing the SEC, and we'll be starting in the West. Finishing last in the West, I have the Auburn Tigers. They finished 5-7 last year, and I got them finishing with the same record. They lost Hank Bigsby to the draft, and they did get transfer Peyton Thorne from Michigan State. I am not very high on Thorne. I'm not really high on this Auburn team. I have them winning their out-of-conference games, going 3-0, but then going on a huge losing streak. And they do get wins against Vanderbilt and New Mexico State. But other than that, I don't really see much potential with this team. I could see them getting one more win and making a bowl game. But other than that, Auburn's like a 4-7 win team, and I have them at 5-7. Finishing sixth in the West, I got the Aggies. I have them going 5-7, the same record they finished as with last year. I do have them starting 4-0 and then getting another one against Alabama Christian to get their wins out. I have them losing at Arkansas, Alabama, Tennessee, South Carolina, both Mississippi's, and losing the last game at LSU. This team's like 1 year away from being like 8-4, but right now I got them sitting 5-7. Sitting at number 5, I have Mississippi State. I do feel like they are a underrated team. I like who they have at QB with Will Rogers, but they just play a tough schedule. I do have them losing 3 games in a row, losing to LSU, South Carolina, and Alabama, and I do have them losing out Arkansas and then losing against their in-state rival Ole Miss. But other than that, I have them winning every other game. Last year they finished 8-4. This year I do think they finished 7-5. This is like a 6-8 team win, and I want to be shocked if they actually made some upsets in the SEC this year. Finishing fourth, I have Arkansas. They went 6-6 last year. They started out good last year, then just kind of fell off. This year, I'm actually very high on them. I love what I see from KJ Jefferson when I watch Arkansas. They were actually very entertaining to watch last year. I do have them losing 3 games this year, losing to LSU, Alabama, and at Ole Miss, which is why Ole Miss will be ahead of them. But other than that, they have a pretty easy out-of-conference schedule in BYU, Kent State, and West Carolina. And then they also play Florida International Week 11, which is weird. I don't know why the SEC does that. It's kind of dumb. But other than that, Arkansas was a team I'm pretty high on. I love the offense. Defense might need a little work, but Arkansas, I have them going 9-3 this year. Finishing third, I have Ole Miss. They went 8-4 last year, but I do have them improving at 9-3 this year. They do have a QB battle going on with Jackson Dart and Spencer Sanders. I would go with Dart just because he knows the offense and he was your starter last year. I have them losing 4 games, which is against Bama, LSU, Georgia. Well, 3 games. But then I do have them winning the rest of the games. I mean, I could see them potentially beating Georgia or even Alabama. But the games being on the road is what really hurts them. But I could also see them beating LSU. I mean, last year they had a pretty small lead in the first quarter, then LSU just took over. Other than that, Ole Miss defense needs some work. The offense is looking pretty solid. I do like Dart at quarterback, so I got the Ole Miss Rebels finishing third in the West and going 9-3 this year. Finishing second, I got LSU. A lot of teams, or not teams, but a lot of people are high on this team. I'm pretty high on them. I just don't see them winning the 2 games I have them losing since it's on the road. I think Florida State might be in a neutral, but I'm not sure. But I have Florida State winning that one. I'm very high on Florida State this year, and I just think they will be able to pull it out. And then at Alabama, if that game was in LSU, I would have been taking LSU. But LSU is a team that could win the SEC West very easily, and even the SEC, I wouldn't be shocked if they did. But other than that, I got them losing to Florida State and Alabama, and then I got them winning the rest of the conference games and out-of-conference schedule, since the out-of-conference schedule is not that tough besides Florida State. And then I have them winning Week 12 against A&M at A&M. Well, against A&M. But I have LSU going 10-2, finishing second in the West. Finishing first in the West, I have Alabama. They went 10-2 last year, losing to A&M and LSU. But this year I feel like it's going to be different. I mean, a lot of people are saying like a down year for Alabama, but looking at their schedule, I can't really just pinpoint a game where they're just going to lose. They got Texas and LSU at home, which I don't see them losing those, solely because it's at home. And then they do face at Mississippi State, and then they also got Tennessee at home. But I just don't really see Alabama losing a game this year with Nick Saban as the head coach. They got Jalen Milroe at quarterback. I'm not very high on him, but just looking at the schedule and the teams they face when they're at home, I'm going to go with Alabama going a 12-0 record. I do think the record doesn't really show how good of a team they are, because they're a good team, But when you have a 12-0 record, you're a great team. But since their schedule isn't, I don't even know how to say this. Like, if they played at LSU, at Tennessee, or even at Texas, I'd probably take the other team. But solely just because it's a home game for Alabama, I've got to go with Alabama. So I got Alabama going 12-0, winning the West this year. Alright, so just to recap the SEC West, I got Auburn finishing 7th, going 5-7. A&M going 5-7. Mississippi State going 7-5. Tied for 3rd, Arkansas and Ole Miss going 9-3. LSU going 10-2. And then Alabama going 12-0. Comment down below who you have winning the West. Heading into the East, this is actually going to be quite a bit of a shock to some people. I have Kentucky finishing last. I've been going 4-8 despite their 7-5 record last year. I did feel like Will Levis carried a big part of Kentucky last year. They got Devin Leary at QB, and I'm not high on him. I was not high on him at NC State last year. And I have Kentucky going 4-8. I do have them winning their out-of-conference schedule, beating Ball State, East Kentucky, and Akron, and then winning their rivalry game against Louisville. But other than that, I mean, there's a couple games I could see them winning, like Vanderbilt and Florida, maybe Mississippi State. But other than that, I have Kentucky going 4-8. This is kind of a hot take for the SEC, I'd say. But I got the Wildcats going 4-8 this year. Finishing 6th, I got Vanderbilt. They went 5-7 last year. I got them going 4-8 this year. I do have them going 1-2. Well, 3-1 in that conference schedule, beating Hawaii, Bama A&M, and UNLV, but losing at Wake Forest. I do have them getting a good one against Kentucky, but then I have them losing the rest of the games out, losing to Missouri, Florida, Georgia, Ole Miss, Auburn, South Carolina, and Tennessee. I mean, they're a 4-6 team in my opinion. I do think they could also lose to Kentucky and even be 3-9. But I'm going to go with Vanderbilt going 4-8 this season. Finishing 5th and also going 4-8, I got the Florida Gators. I mean, I just don't really see them being good this year. I mean, they lost Anthony Richardson, who made a lot of big plays from last year. I have this being a very bad year. I mean, they got Graham Mertz at quarterback, but he was nothing at Wisconsin. And I don't see him stepping into AR-15's position whatsoever. I have them losing week 1 at Utah. I have them losing against Tennessee. And then I do have them losing week 7 to week 12 against South Carolina, Georgia, Arkansas, LSU, Missouri, and Florida State. Their wins are going to be Charlotte, McNeese State, Vandy, and Kentucky. I mean, they didn't really improve as much as most people think. So I got Florida going 4-8 this season. Next up, I have a pretty underrated team. I have Missouri. I mean, I could see them going 8-4. I could also see them going 4-8. But I have them sitting at 6-6. I have them starting out the season 2-0, but they lose their third out-of-conference game, losing against Kansas State. They do beat Memphis and Vandy, lose against LSU, win at Kentucky, and then they lose 4 of the last 5, losing to Arkansas, South Carolina, Georgia, and Tennessee, but winning week 11 against Florida to clinch that bowl game win. Not bowl game win, but clinch making a bowl game. Finishing 3rd is a team that got really hot towards the end of the season last year. I have South Carolina. They finished 8-4 last year, and I have them upgrading once again, finishing 9-3 this year. I do have them losing against Georgia, Clemson, and Tennessee. At Georgia and at Tennessee, I mean, I could see them winning maybe one of those games, like Tennessee maybe, but I do got Tennessee getting revenge on them. And I could also see them winning Week 12 against Clemson, but I do believe in Cade Klubnik for Clemson. This team is a team that could also very well disappoint this year, but I don't think they will. I feel like South Carolina is going to be somewhat back this year, going 9-3. I feel like they're going to be like a Florida State type team last year, where like they might lose a game they're not supposed to. But I have them going 9-3 this year. What do you guys have for South Carolina going this year? Finishing 2nd, I have Tennessee. I do have them going 10-2 once again. Their losses are going to be at Alabama and Georgia this year. I could see them also maybe dropping another game this year. I don't think they're going to be as dominant as they were last year. Joe Milton's the quarterback right now. I mean, I remember watching Milton at Michigan. His reads are terrible, but also he's developed since then. But I have Tennessee going 10-2, maybe going 11-1, or maybe even going 9-3. But do you have Tennessee winning the East this year, or do you still got Georgia winning it? And then speaking of Georgia, I do have them winning the SEC East again. I feel like they're just kind of too dominant to be stopped right now. They don't really have a really tough schedule. Their hardest game is going to be at Tennessee and at Florida. I could see Tennessee beating them just because it's a home game and they did it to Alabama last year. But at the end of the day, every time Georgia's counted out, like they were against Oregon last year, they just come out and dominate. So I'm going to go with Georgia also going 12-0 last year. They finished 12-0 last year and this year. Well, they're going to finish 12-0 this year. But yeah, I got Georgia going 12-0 and winning the East this year to face Alabama in the SEC championship game. And in the SEC championship game, I do have Georgia defeating Alabama 34-24 and basically claiming that 1 seed, unless Michigan comes out and does something. But I got Georgia going 12-0, Alabama going 12-0, but Georgia winning the SEC championship 34-24. And just to recap the SEC East real quick, I have Georgia going 12-0, Tennessee 10-2, South Carolina 9-3, Missouri 6-6, Florida 4-8, Vanderbilt 4-8, and Kentucky 4-8. Comment down below who you guys have winning the SEC and what team you have in the championship. But until next time, my next video is going to be the Pac-12, and I'll see you guys later.